Hello, my name is Derek Lopez. I am the trainer for Highlands Energy Services, and I've been here with the company going on 9 years. And what I do is I train all the new hires that come into our company so that we can train them so they can learn everything that they do out in the field and be efficient for what they do. All right, safety is very important in our organization. We want everybody to be safe out in the field. And I believe, safety personally is most and foremost important so that everybody, is able to go home with their families and are safe and while they're working on the job site. All right, so the first thing that we want to do when we come to the customer's house is set up our cones. The cones usually go behind the vehicle or on the side if you're parked on the street, just to make sure that incoming traffic when they're coming through, that our guys are safe. Also, just make sure that the vehicle is locked up at all times. So make sure that you go all the way around, all the doors are locked up. And if we have to pull out of the driveway, make sure that we're spotting the person backing up out of the driveway, just to make sure that we avoid any accidents or hitting any cars coming by. Here at Highlands Energy Services, we take driving very important. Our vehicles, they do have GPS on them. It tracks a lot of harsh braking, harsh acceleration. They have GPSs so we know where our crews are at. If they're not wearing their seat belts, it tracks that as well. We want these guys to be safe out in the field and whoever's around them as well. So our second component is customer service. This is very important as we go into the customer's house. Make sure that we look professional and that we have our badges visible. Always let the customer know that we're here working with Highlands Energy Services through the Energy Savings Assistance Program. By no means are we allowed to let the customer know that we are working for PG&E. So yes, make sure that you have your badge visible with you. So the first thing that we're going to do when we go into the customer's house is perform the one wall method. The one wall method is going to take us throughout the whole house. Make sure that we do a proper assessment of the home. While you're doing this, it's also a good thing to let the customer know to go ahead and put away their belongings. Any money laying around, any values that are laying around, just always let the customer know to go ahead and put those away. We need to remember that we provide professional design and construction services to help lower customers' energy, and we need to act professional. All right, so now we're going to go over and show you guys some of the measures that were installed in this home. So here we have the French door, the front door. We replaced the weather stripping in here. So we did the top weather stripping, and then we did the legs, as well as the door shoe at the bottom. Okay. One of the most important things we always want to focus is make sure that the customer's door opens and closes freely. Okay. So we want to make sure that the door shoe, everything seals properly from the bottom. Okay. So as you open the door and close the door, that's going to block any infiltration coming through that. Okay, we want to make sure that these doors are sealed properly. Make sure that there is no light, coming through when the door is closed. Okay, and then same thing with this door. We also installed the door shoe on this side. Okay, so when we shut the door, everything seals to the bottom, and this door is nice and weatherized. Okay. Okay, so as we come into the home, notice some of the outlets that face the outer wall. So in these we want to make sure that we install some gaskets behind it, and that's gonna go ahead and save some energy, make sure that there's no infiltration coming in through those gaskets or those outlets. We also want to make sure that we check those outlets, make sure that they are not broken or missing, because that will be a hazard if we miss one of those. Okay, so we want to make sure that we use the one wall method, going all the way around. Make sure we check all the way around the walls. We're also looking for any caulking, any gaps around the windows. We want to make sure that everything is sealed properly all the way around. Okay, so any gaps bigger than 1/16 of an inch, we want to make sure that we apply any caulking, or if we see any holes, especially above the windows, make sure that it's sealed properly as well. Okay, so always use the one wall method, going all the way around behind any furniture. Okay, now we don't move any furniture if there's something in the way. We just need to make sure that we note it down on our paperwork. Okay, so on the work order, make sure that you write it down that there was a missing cover plate behind the couch in the living room. Okay, so we're going to continue on with our one wall method. Okay, any holes that you see visible, we want to make sure we take care of that. Okay, everything looks pretty good. Same thing behind any furniture. And then make sure you carry a flashlight with you. All right, make sure that you check for any cover plates, any caulking, any missing cover plates. Okay, make sure that they're not cracked. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go over and show you guys some of the measures that were installed in this home. So here we have the French door, the front door. We replaced the weather stripping in here. So we did the top weather stripping, and then we did the legs, as well as the door shoe at the bottom. Okay. One of the most important things we always want to focus is make sure that the customer's door opens and closes freely. Okay. So we want to make sure that the door shoe, everything seals properly from the bottom. Okay. So as you open the door and close the door, that's going to block any infiltration coming through that. Okay, we want to make sure that these doors are sealed properly. Make sure that there is no light, coming through when the door is closed. Okay, and then same thing with this door. We also installed the door shoe on this side. Okay, so when we shut the door, everything seals to the bottom, and this door is nice and weatherized. Okay. Okay, so as we come into the home, notice some of the outlets that face the outer wall. So in these, we want to make sure that we install some gaskets behind it, and that's gonna go ahead and save some energy. Make sure that there's no infiltration coming in through those gaskets or those outlets. We also want to make sure that we check those outlets, make sure that they are not broken or missing, because that will be a hazard if we miss one of those. Okay, so we want to make sure that we use the one wall method, going all the way around. Make sure we check all the way around the walls. We're also looking for any caulking, any gaps around the windows. We want to make sure that everything is sealed properly all the way around. Okay, so any gaps bigger than 1/16 of an inch, we want to make sure that we apply any caulking, or if we see any holes, especially above the windows, make sure that it's sealed properly as well. Okay, so always use the one wall method, going all the way around behind any furniture. Okay, now we don't move any furniture if there's something in the way. We just need to make sure that we note it down on our paperwork. Okay, so on the work order, make sure that you write it down that there was a missing cover plate behind the couch in the living room. Okay, so we're going to continue on with our one wall method. Okay, any holes that you see visible, we want to make sure we take care of that. Okay, everything looks pretty good. Same thing behind any furniture. And then make sure you carry a flashlight with you. All right, make sure that you check for any cover plates, any caulking, any missing cover plates. Okay, make sure that they're not cracked. So in this bedroom over here, we replaced the incandescent for LED light bulbs. Okay, so if the customer has incandescent light bulbs, right, we can install the LEDs. Just make sure that they don't have any dimmer switches because they are not compatible with dimmers. Okay. Always make sure that you walk into closets. Okay, looking for any holes. Okay, in the closets. Also, if there's an attic access, any holes that need to be sealed. Okay, we want to make sure we cover those. Everything looks pretty good in here. Any lamps too that might have some incandescent light bulbs, we can install some LEDs if they're not dimmable. Okay. All right. Then we go into this wall. Same thing, checking for any cracks around the windows, any broken glass. Okay. If you do find a crack, it's bigger than 6 inches, right? If it's a single pane glass, we can replace the glass. All right. So same thing in here. We installed some LED light bulbs. Okay, they had some incandescents. Check the cover plates. Check the windows, check the walls, up and down. Make sure you cover everything. Okay. Everything looks pretty good in here. Okay, make sure we check behind this door. Everything looks good. All right. Now we're going to go into the restroom, okay? So in here, we were able to install some vanities, okay? In the vanities, they have LED light bulbs, so we're able to install those in here, okay? In the sink area, okay, this one didn't qualify for the faucet raters, but if you do replace some faucet raters, and make sure that when you take them off, take them off with your hand. Don't try to use any pliers. If you do replace a faucet rater, please make sure that you leave them underneath the sinks, okay? So underneath the sinks, we want to make sure that we seal all the water lines and the drain lines, okay? So just make sure that you go down there with and apply some caulking on both water lines and that drain line in there, okay? Because we want to avoid any infiltration coming in through those pipes. Okay. Same thing behind the toilet, the water line that's back there. You always want to make sure that you seal around that as well. Okay. Shower heads, you always want to let the customer know. In this case, they didn't want the shower heads replaced in this bathroom, so we left the ones that they had in there. So don't always assume that we can replace the measures. We always want to let the customer know, see if they want the measures installed. If they don't want them installed, then we want to make sure that we make that note in our work orders. All right, so everything in here looks good. Always check behind the doors, okay, because sometimes there are holes when the door slams open, and we want to make sure that we cover up that wall repair. Okay, so we did the same in this room. We installed some LED light bulbs in here. This house is sealed pretty good, okay? And if we walk into the attic access, okay, so we're in the master, and here's where they have the attic access all the way around. So we want to make sure that we install that foam tape all the way around, and it's sealed completely, okay? So we want to make sure that that is sealed. So always locate the attic access in the house. If it's in a conditioned space, we want to make sure that we are sealing it. If it's not in a conditioned space, which may be in the garage, then it's not going to qualify, for weather strip in there. Okay. Very important that we always locate the attic access so that we can look for any vent terminations coming in the attic. That's one of our pre-and-GAT assessments, and we always want to make sure that we climb into the attic and check for those vent terminations. Okay. While you're in here, make sure that you use a proper ladder. Okay. If you are using an A-frame ladder, make sure that you're able to open it, and then you're using the proper height to climb into the attic. Good. Okay. And then in here we did install some a shower head. Okay. We installed a handheld shower head. Okay. So make sure that your shower head is not leaking. Make sure everything, when you turn it on, it's working properly. And also, explain to the customer, show them, the material that we're installing. Okay, so make sure that the customer, during the walkthrough, the customer is happy with anything that we're installing. Okay, so this door we went ahead and weather stripped all the way around. Okay, so and then we added a door shoe. Okay, so that everything seals properly, at the bottom. Okay, so we want to make sure that everything closes properly. You can lock it. Everything locks. Okay, and make sure that there is no light coming through. Okay. Very important, if you ever install any lock sets, please make sure that you give the customer their keys, okay, so that they can come in through this door. Because sometimes if we replace them, if we forget to give the customer their keys, then they're not going to have a way to come into their homes, okay. And have the customer always come in and check their doors, okay, make sure they're able to open, okay, and close the door, okay. We want to make sure that the customer can easily open and close their doors. Okay, this door looks pretty good. Everything is sealed all the way around properly. Okay, customer is happy with this door. Okay, and here we went ahead and installed a striker plate at the bottom and a striker plate on top. Okay. Anything else in here? Okay. We install some more LED light bulbs in this fan, okay, and then we installed some in this fan as well, okay, and then we also replaced this door over here, okay. Okay, so this door goes into the garage, okay. It has some spring-loaded hinges, okay. We want to make sure that the door closes all the way, okay, because it is a firewall, okay, so we want to make sure that we install spring hinges, one in the top, one in the bottom, and a regular loose pin in the center, okay. Okay, just also make sure that everything is sealed, okay, so we put the weather stripping all the way around, okay, and also make sure that you weather seal the door. Okay, so spray some sealant on the door, and also make sure that if the customers, if they have any sensors, and if you replace the door, make sure that you put the sensor back in there. Okay, so just in case they want to set their alarm, make sure that we install those sensors in there. Okay, but this door opens freely, opens and closes good. Okay, make sure that the customer checks their door, make sure they're happy with it, and make sure that we clean around our areas. Make sure we always leave everything nice and clean, okay, cleaner than what it was before. Okay. So while we're on the outside, we need to make sure that we walk all the way through the outside, making sure that we seal any pipe penetrations coming through the walls, okay? So there is a pipe penetration over here on this side, okay? We want to make sure that these are sealed all the way around with some silicone. Any windows that have any cracks, we want to make sure that we apply some silicone on those as well, okay? So any drain lines, any water lines, any phone lines or any cable lines, make sure that we seal around those when we're doing our walkthrough through the outside. Okay? All right. Okay, so here we have the monoxer. Okay, it's very important that we turn the monoxer on the outside. Okay, so we're going to go to the outside, and then we're going to go ahead and turn the monoxer. Okay, very important that you turn it on the outside of the home. And then we also have to perform the flow block. Okay, so the flow block happens in two different sections. So the flow block, we have to do it at the monoxer. Okay, so what you want to do is in the very back, gently place your finger, above. Okay, and it'll make the beep. Okay, meaning that there is no leaks inside the monoxer. Okay. Make sure that you are very careful with that little tip right there. Okay, it's very fragile, so you want to make sure that you are gentle with that. So then go ahead and hook up your hose. Okay, make sure that you don't tighten it too much, just enough where it's in there. Okay, then you do another flow block at the tip to make sure that there is no leaks in the hose. Okay, there we go. So the flow block is good. We started the monoxer on the outside. Now we can come home and stage our house. So the first ambient is going to be ambient number 1, and we want to make sure that we stage the house for best case scenario. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys what best case scenario is. Okay, so when we're staging the house for best case scenario, we want to make sure that we close all interior doors, or all the doors that go to the outside. We want to make sure that those are closed. Okay, any door that leads to the outside of the house, that door has to be closed at all times during the in-gap process. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close this. Okay, and we're going to use our one wall method. Make sure all doors and windows are closed. Okay, so and then we're going to go ahead and close our garage door as well. Okay, make sure our garage door is closed. Okay. Right, so now the next step is to set the house for best case scenario. We want to make sure that all the exhaust fans that go to the outside are turned off. Okay, so now we're talking about, the range hood. We're talking about the bathroom fans that exhaust to the outside. If they have a dryer, make sure that that's turned off as well. If they have any candles, we want to make sure that those are turned off as well, because we don't want to pick up the fumes from the candles. Also, we need to make sure if they have any ceiling fans, to make sure that the ceiling fans are also turned off. Okay, we want the house in a still motion. Make sure that there is no air movement in the house. Okay, if the customer happens to have a fireplace, okay, it's very important that during the best case scenario,
and worst case scenario, that make sure that the fireplace damper is turned off. Okay, so always go inside. Okay, and make sure that the damper is closed on your fireplace. All right, so we also want to make sure that we take the filter off. Okay, so the filters have to be removed when we're staging the house for best case or when we're testing the appliances. Okay, so here we're gonna go ahead and take the filter off. Okay, so once you have staged your house for best case scenario, now we want to make sure that we get our ambient number 1 at the center of the home. Okay, so make sure that we're about 10 feet away from a register or the return, and then 6 feet above, and that's where we're going to get our first ambient. And remember, everything, all the appliances have to be turned off, all the exhaust fans have to be turned off, interior doors have to be open, and make sure that all the candles are off as well. Okay. So once you have tested all your appliances, okay, you can make sure that you have this form with you, okay? This is the NGAT ambient and flue action levels. This is gonna tell you at what level each appliance is failing. So it's gonna have your ambient, okay? And then you're gonna have your flue reads, and then it's gonna tell you each appliance that you're testing, okay? At what level they fail, okay? And then you have some more appliances in the back. If any of your appliances fail, okay, we need to make sure that we call CIP, okay, to schedule for a GSR to go out there and take care of the issue, okay? So make sure that you have one of these. These are GSR criterias, okay? Okay, any of these, you know, if you made the appliance safe, okay, or the next available representative, okay? So make sure that you have this with you when you have to call CIP. This is the NGAT procedure guidelines, okay? So when you're doing your NGATs, make sure that you follow this process. This is gonna walk you through to make sure that you're testing the appliances the right way. If you follow this through, right, you should not having any issues messing up on your NGAT testing, okay? So these are gonna be very helpful to have with you at all times. If any of your appliances fail, okay, make sure that you fill out one of these right here. Gas service rep, so a GSR service appointment card. Okay, anytime you make an appointment, an appliance safe, or any of your appliances failed, and you call GSR, make sure that you put in the project number. The contractor is going to be Highlands Energy Services, the name of the technician, okay, and the badge number, okay. When you call them, they're going to set up an appointment with the customer. Make sure that we put the appointment date and time in there. And then in this section, you know, whatever appliances failed, okay, put what appliance failed, the location of the appliance, and the comments for GSR. Okay, so any comments like say the appliance water heater failed the spillage, okay, the smoke test. So then I would write that down in there. Okay, very important that we leave one of these behind anytime the appliance fails and we call GSR. If you do make an appliance safe, okay, we have these hangers, okay. Make sure that you leave one of these on the valve that you made safe, okay. This is gonna let the GSR know that you made the appliance safe and you turn it off, okay. There's cases where sometimes customers, they go and they turn them on, but if you leave one of these, this is gonna tell the GSR that you made the appliance safe. Possibly the customer might have turned the gas valve on. Okay, so as soon as you get your ambient number 1, make sure that you record the readings on the monoxer. Okay, so you immediately want to make sure that you record that information. Okay, so now once you recorded your ambient number 1, which is at the center of the house, okay, now we're gonna do our ambient number 2. Okay, in this house, they have a central heating and air. So ambient number 2 is going to be taken at the closest register to the return. Okay, so anytime we're testing the appliances, we want to make sure that we stage the house for worst case scenario. Okay, so that means that we're going to go back and we're going to close the interior doors, and we're going to go ahead and open all the turn on all the exhaust fans. So anything that exhausts to the outside, you want to make sure that is turned on. Okay, so your range hood, the dryer that exhausts to the outside, the fans in the bathroom, you want to make sure that those are turned on. Okay, so to get our ambient number 2, we want to make sure that we get our reading on the closest register to the return. Okay, so this is the return in the hallway, and this bedroom is where the closest register to the return is. So we're going to get our ambient number 2 in this room right here. Okay, so before we get our reading at the closest register to the return, we want to make sure that we set the temperature at the highest reading. Okay, make sure that you know the temperature where the customer has it, so that before we leave, we can put everything back to its original location. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to put on heating and then set it up to the highest setting. Okay, which is 90, and we want to make sure that we warm up the appliance for 5 minutes. Okay, so once we're inside the room, we want to make sure that this door stays closed. Okay, and here is our return. So this is where we're going to get our reading. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and test the water heater. Okay, so the water heater is located in the garage. We want to make sure that this door stays open. Okay, so when you're testing your water heater, because we have everything staged at worst case scenario, so we want to make sure that this door remains open. Okay, so when we test the appliance water heater, we want to make sure that we set it at the highest setting. Okay, so always mark it where the customer has it. Okay, then put it at the highest setting. Once you hear the burner turn on, make sure that we warm up for 5 minutes. So once you have warmed up your appliances for 5 minutes, okay, we want to do our ambient, okay, on the appliance. So our ambient on the appliance is going to be around the draft diverter. Okay, so this is the draft diverter. So we want to go about 6 inches all the way around the draft diverter. Make sure that you're always looking at your monoxer to get the highest level of CO. Okay, and this is going to be your ambient read. Okay, so this is as measured. Once you completed your flow read or your ambient test around the draft diverter, now we're going to get started with our flow read. Okay, so make sure that on your monoxer, okay, you select B, select B again, and it's going to auto zero. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and place this inside of the baffle. Okay, so the water heater has two baffles inside the flue. So we're going to make sure that we test on both sides. Okay, so get it inside the baffled. Okay, and then press start again. So it has a timer. Once the oxygen drops down to 15%, then it'll start your count for 1 minute. Okay, so once it's done, okay, you always want to record the highest read that you got. Okay, so you have to go onto the other side of the baffle, okay, and then press B again. It'll restart the count for 1 minute. So once you count for 1 minute, make sure that you record the highest level on the baffle. Okay. Right. So once you get your flow read on the water heater, the next step is to get your smoke test. Okay. So we want to make sure that we apply smoke on the sides, and the purpose for that is to make sure that the appliance is drafting all the fumes all the way to the outside. Okay. So you get a smoke pin. Okay. And then you go all the way around, and it should suck all the fumes to the outside. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do the smoke test on the appliance water heater. So you want to make sure that this is drafting to the outside. If the smoke is pushing it towards you, then that fails the appliance. Okay, so that means that this is not drafting properly to the outside. Okay. Okay, see how there is sucking it into the inside? So we want to make sure that we go all the way around. Make sure it's drafting all the way to the outside. Anytime the smoke pushes it towards you, that fails the appliance. Okay, so there's some smoke that is pushing towards us, so that would be a fail. Okay, and that's how you do a smoke test on the water heater. So once you have done the ambient around the draft diverter, once you've gotten your flue read, okay, on both sides of the baffled, and gotten your smoke test around the draft diverter, we want to make sure that you always place the appliance back to where the customer had it. Okay. It's always good to always advise the customer that the appliance was on for more than 5 minutes, okay, and that the water temperature is going to be a little bit higher than what they had it before.
All right, so before we leave the customer's house, it's very important that we go and do a walkthrough one more time just to make sure that we don't leave any tools, we don't leave anything laying around. Make sure the home is nice and clean. Also, there is a checklist that we have to check to make sure that everything was installed in the home and that all the measures that were feasible were installed. We also want to make sure that the customer signs the work order and explain to the customer everything that was installed in the home. Very important that we explain to the customer all the measures that were installed in the home so they know how to operate and use the measures that were installed.